Okay, welcome once again to the Grand Prix Project with me, your host Andre Miller and the Big Bro.
Neil, Thanos.
Yeah, what's good? What's good? Race full weekend of racing, right?
Man, I tell you what, I don't know how I managed to keep up with everything over the weekend, man, because you had what? Formula One, MotoGP, World Superbike in Assen.
Yeah, it was a lot. I didn't get much sleep.
Holy, man. I
Yeah.
didn't, and the Formula One, I watched it. My peeps over by Quick Stop F1, they had a live watch event again. So I just said, all right, let me just support the thing, and went down there and watch it. A group of people. It was all right.
Yeah, that's good.
Nice little venue as well. Food's all right. Nice live music. They do live music as well, so it was all right.
Yeah, good for support. It's not a lot of us in this space, so you got to support each other. So respect on that.
Most definitely. It's the second one. I remember they did the first one. I went the first one. I think that was in 22 or I think 23. One of those years. Yeah, I went the first one. So this is the second one I've got.
Okay. So yeah, let's fire it off. Let's. So Piastri, what a weekend he's had.
Huh?
What a weekend he's had. What are your takes on his performance over the weekend?
He's starting to show up. You know what I mean? He started the season pretty much on the front foot, barring the mistake in Australia. He would have been on the podium. So him and Lando would have been the only driver so far that's been on every single podium. Well, not Lando, because Lando wasn't on the podium in the sprint, but Oscar would have been on the podium in every race, including the sprint. You know what I mean? Because he was second in the sprint in China. The lowest he's finished outside of Australia is third. That was in Japan the other day. Look at his record. 2 wins from 2 poles, a third place finish, and where did he finish? I can't remember where he finished in Australia. So right now, Lando has his work cut out for him because Oscar doesn't look like, he's going to let up. And, so he needs to definitely get his act together. But as I said, with Oscar still, it's an impressive start to his season. He's showing Lando that, look, take me seriously, because if you falter, I'm going to be here to pick up the pieces from you. Because right now, the lead in the championship, while it went up over Max, it went down against Oscar.
Yeah.
It's now what? I think it's 3 or 4 points is the gap now between them. And current form, you're saying come the next race this weekend in Jeddah, Oscar is going to be favorite again. What's the gap is now 3 points, 77 to 74.
Who would have thought?
You know what I mean? To be fair to Oscar, to say who would have thought is kind of like implying that he's not good enough.
No, not really. If we're being honest, in the whole F1 sphere, everyone was thinking that it was going to be Max versus Lando. No one had asked Oscar in the conversation, if we're being honest.
Yeah, and that's why I say it's not fair to Oscar, because you look at his performances last year. Yeah, he had some bad moments, but if you look at the good moments, he was there when Lando wasn't there. To rule him out in some ways was kind of
disingenuous.
No, not disingenuous. Premature.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he showed last year that he can win races. He's quick in qualifying. His problem was he had issues with tire management. And if he brushed that side of his game up, then he's definitely a contender. And you could see during the testing that he was genuinely quick, as Lando as well. So I don't know why anybody would kind of like rule him out.
Yeah, you already know my views on Lando, right? And I always thought that whenever Oscar figure certain things out, he was going to be there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of sounds contradicting to what I just said in terms of like, who would have thought? But I always felt that Oscar is good enough. We know he's had his little issues, but I always felt like whenever he ironed out those little things, tire management, all these stuff, all these things with a bit more experience under his belt, I always thought it was going to be rapid. Right? And I think we're seeing that now. You know, on your spaces, we did mention about when they mentioned about time management, and I'm like, well, we mentioned it when on Saturday, and he kind of showed it on Sunday, even though they say it's not an IDEC track, but he did what he was supposed to do, and he's shown. I'm seeing the sample sizes that I'm seeing from him now is large enough for me to say the more track time and the more he could put that thing on the front row and start getting to those battles, he's going to be okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a title contender because that was his 50th Grand Prix, and he won his 50th Grand Prix. Put on pole. And he looked, the whole entire weekend, he looked pretty much as a contender. You looked at the whole weekend and you think, well, it's definitely between him and Lando. And in every one of the practice sessions, he was generally the quicker of the two drivers. So going into qualifying, you kind of knew that this is the guy to beat, not Lando. And he delivered on the whole entire weekend. Lando had again, going back to what you said, your issue with Lando is he makes too much mistakes. And he made a lot of mistakes. Again, qualifying, his first one was fine, because I believe on his first one, he was provisional pole. I think he was. But then completely messed up his second run to qualify sixth. Granted, I think he moved up a position because who got a penalty? The two Mercs got penalties for coming out too early when the red flag was out. But at the same time, that shouldn't be happening given the car that he's driving.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He made it similar thing he did again in China qualifying. Made a mistake again. So, like you asked me the question, do I think he can win the championship? And I think, yes, he can, because he has the equipment to do it. He has the team to do it. The problem becomes how much is he going to limit his mistakes?
Yeah, it comes down to the thing that sits in his skull, in fluid.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
But at the same time, given it's a 24 race, when you include a sprint, I think it's 26 races. Better to make your mistakes now than later on in the season, because you have enough time to recover whatever points lost.
Yeah, that's my mantra too. I always say it. If you're gonna make mistakes, you better make them early, because you start making that back when 5 races to go and you start DNF. Hey, you ain't got time to recover that.
Yeah, because we know at some point the same thing is going to happen to Oscar. There's going to come a set of races where he's just nowhere and he's just lost. The question then now becomes, will Lando punish him?
And that's the thing. We could expect those weekends, right? Mm-hmm. The problem is whenever those weekends arrive, is where is he gonna finish? How is he gonna keep his head? Because you could have bad weekends, but the problem is when you have bad weekends, you don't want to find yourself in a position, make it that make it looks like you don't want to have bad weekends and being outside the points, or if you
Not
could
on
have
the podium.
if you could have bad weekends in a car like the McLaren, you need to be, say, the worst top 6.
No, that's too
far.
That's too far. It's
because when I'm looking at a bad weekend, I'm looking at like if all the other team shows up.
Yeah, but a bad weekend for a McLaren driver should be a third place finish.
Should be a third place. Yeah, I could see
Which
that.
is what I said to you, when we had that conversation in the space, and you guys were saying Lando is doing this, and I was like, yeah, but at the same time, he's finishing on the podium. That's what you need to have. So if your worst weekend is you finishing on the podium, that's in some ways it's still a good weekend because you're on the podium. You're in the top 3. But if your worst weekend you finish in 7th, 8th, 9th, that's not acceptable. Because if your teammate punishes you, then it's a bigger points loss than if you were to finish 3rd. Because you finish 3rd, the difference between that and 1st is 10 points. The difference between 1st and 8th, I think it's 25, like 22, 23 points.
Amen.
Or something like that. So for me, whilst Lando made some critical errors over the weekend, he still somewhat recovered his position because, again, he started 6th. I think he started 5th.
Yeah.
Started 5th. No. He qualified 6th.
The Merck penalty.
Yeah, but George dropped from 2nd to 3rd. Kimmy qualified what? 4th.
So he would have dropped to 5th.
Yeah, so Kimmy dropped to 5th. So I'd have to look up the starting grid. But either way, he managed to recover the position on the first lap, basically. At the start of the race, he was up past Charles before even turn 1.
Yeah.
And he was up in that part of the field. But then, again, he made that stupid mistake with his grid situation. Cost himself a 5-second penalty, which then forced him to pit early than normal, take the penalty, and ran his tires so hard that he recovered that 5-second penalty on everybody else. And that's the reason why when Charles was able to pass him, because again, he had actually used up the best part of his tires just to recover that 5 seconds.
You're right. The thing is with that, right, is I'm glad. So the points difference between first and, because you got to look at it, right? This is why I say he has to get his act together.
Mm-hmm.
Couple of
so
those.
He started 6th as usual. Yeah, the only people who moved position was Kimmy dropped from 4th to 5th. Gasly was promoted a position. Charles was promoted a position.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you could see where it's like a couple weekends off, Oscar first and him 3rd. All of a sudden he's got a 30-point deficit. Quick. Right?
Yeah.
And I know the season is long. So now, if he's giving up those sort of points, you got to remember he's got to recover that and some.
Yeah, but again, it's a long season.
So it means his teammate would really have to have some bad weekends for him to recover that and some.
Yeah, and I think that's going to happen. I think Oscar's going to have his bad weekends, definitely. We saw he had a bad race in Australia, so it can happen. You know what I mean? It's not beyond the realms of possibility.
Yeah. Anyone who's saying that they don't expect him to have an off weekend is crazy. For me, it's just that whenever he gets the opportunities, he doesn't fumble the ball. That's what I like about him.
So I think, in all fairness, I think this championship is a 2-horse race. It's between him and Lando.
All right, and so let me ask you this.
That's where I think this championship is right now.
All right, so let me ask you this, right? Because we're going to have to move on soon. So if you're saying it's a 2-horse race, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm going to ask you, right?
Go on.
Who you putting your pennies on?
Lando.
Okay.
Because I still think, even with all the mistakes he has made, experience will count. His experience, been in this sport much longer. I think it will count for something. So I'm giving him a 60-40 split.
I'm gonna put my 2 cents. I'm gonna go Oscar.
All right, cool.
All right, I'm gonna go Oscar. And some of you might say, "You crazy? That's not." I've seen enough to believe that if he keeps putting himself in a position and the car remains there, I could see him doing a good championship run.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, it's not really that you're crazy, because even when I was at the Quick Stop live event, they asked the question, who would I think was going to win the championship? And the majority said Oscar. And I said, I think a majority of the people who say Oscar said it because they don't like Lando. Nothing to do with the fact that he's actually a good driver. It's just that they don't like him, so majority pick Oscar.
I could see that.
But yeah, and again, Lando created that problem because he made some comments whilst Lewis was winning, saying, he had the best car, so he should be winning races, etc., etc., etc. And no, he has the best car. He's realizing, it's not as easy as it looks.
You think, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I'm glad that you knowing me, my opinions are never based on like anything personal. You've heard me. I'm consistent with my argument when it comes down to Lando.
Yeah.
Right. So, I'm going Oscar just for. I just think if the moments come when it's crunch time, I just for some reason he gives me a vibe that he's just better in those situations.
Well, so we'll see. And again, this goes back to what we said a couple of episodes ago when you asked me about who can win the championship, if Lando winning the championship. And I said, well, he has the material to do it. He has the car to do it. He now just needs to prove to everybody that he can do it. If he doesn't do it, then we can look at him and say, well, you're not that guy. It's that simple.
Got you.
It's that simple.
So, he still leads the championship.
Yeah, right. By 3 points.
Okay, so
and the interesting thing about that is he was pretty much, when he was told that he's leading the championship, he's like, after the way I performed this weekend, I'm surprised that I'm even leading it, to be honest. Yeah. And, he has issues with that car. Whilst the car is the best car in the grid, he's been saying since testing that he doesn't feel comfortable in the car. There's some issues that he needs ironing out. And I guess that's what is leading to somewhat the inconsistent, because his issue is not in the race. It's qualifying.
Yeah.
That's where his issue comes into play. So whatever it is that's affecting him in qualifying, if they sort that out, I think then he'll be in a much better position, because again, he has the speed in the race. You said he's indecisive when it comes to certain moments. And I'm like, well, is it decisiveness? I think that's a word. Or is he being more calculated with how he does things? Because sometimes no two people are alike. So while Oscar would pull up behind somebody and just make the move straight away, maybe Lando thinks of it like, okay, let me be a bit more calculated with how I do this. I don't want to just rush into it because you never know. Let me set it up, give it 2 laps or whatever it is. But he has everything available to him. He has the car, he has the talent. Like you said, it's that soft tissue thing in his cranium that needs to, work properly for him to succeed. So, and again, despite having all those issues, he's still leading the championship.
Yeah. So
that shows you that what I said earlier about a bad weekend for Lando in that McLaren is finishing on the podium. If you don't win, you have to be on the podium, because consistency points win your championship.
Yeah. Yeah, because you could have the most wins and still lose a championship. So
Lewis lost a championship with the most wins, 2016. He won a championship in his first championship in 08. He didn't have the most wins that season.
It's about
but he
points.
won the championship.
Well,
you know what I mean? I think he had 4 wins in 2008. Massa had more. I can't remember the split. But again, points wins championship.
Well, the good thing with this, we ain't got to wait long.
Yeah.
Right, we
ain't got to wait long. We only have
another
couple more days, and then we're back racing again. Probably one of my favorite tracks. I love that Jeddah track, man. It's absolutely awesome.
Okay, so we mentioned the championship. So now, Max and Red Bull struggles.
Look,
I know you like this.
I have no sympathy for Max because they kept telling us Max could put anything on the podium or on pole or whatever it is. So whatever struggle he's dealing with, what's going on? Suck it up. Man up. Drive the car and shut the hell up. Get on with the job. Because that's what you told other people to do when they were in a bad situation with their cars.
But to be fair, right? Was it he who was saying that I could put anything on pole, or it was just people in the space? It wasn't really him.
He's pretty much echoed similar words. He's been disrespectful to other drivers. He's been disrespectful to Lewis when he was in his Mercedes days, talking about, put me in this car and we'll know how good he is and all of that stuff. So I have no sympathy for him whatsoever, because it's that brashness, it's that believing that, okay, I understand self-belief, but you can somewhat temper it down a bit. But again, I'm not a Red Bull fan. I'm not a Max fan. So whenever they suffer, it brings a smile to my face. Straight up. I'm happy to see them suffer. Because when he was in the race and he was complaining, I was enjoying that complaint, because I was like, yep, welcome to everybody else's world. His fans are arguing about, I've seen clips and people are like, how they expect him to perform in that? And I'm like, well, I put out a tweet. I said, look, if he hasn't come out of that car hunched over with holding his back in discomfort and excruciating pain, then he's all right. There's nothing wrong with that car. Tell him to drive it and win races and put it on the podium, because they make it seem like that Red Bull is like the W13 that Lewis drove, or any other turbo cars that anyone else has driven. That Red Bull is not as bad as they make it out to be. Yeah, okay, cool, it has some issues, but I think they're benchmarking it against the RB19. You know what I mean? But whatever struggles they're having, I enjoy it. I revel in it.
Man, reveling Red Bull's downfall,
Yeah, they're not falling fast enough for me, though. I need them to go from, you go from 0 to 100. I want them to go from 100 to -1 in blink of an eye.
Bro, why you like this, bro?
Because,
And rumors got it that his manager had a go at Helmut Marko. And
so what does that tell you about that whole entire clique around him? They don't believe that he's supposed to deal with regular issues that other drivers deal with. I mean, why are you confronting the team boss in public angry because he had a bad race?
Yeah, that stuff like that I don't agree with, because at the end of the day, it's still a business, right? And
it's not just a business, it's a sport, and these things happen.
Hold on. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a business, it's a sport. And there's a lot of cameras around too, right? Mm-hmm. And you just got to be more mindful with how you approach these things. I'm sure they got enough places in the back where they could have that conversation. When people see a manager basically confronting the team managers, it's only a matter of time for other teams to be like, you could be as good, we just don't want to deal with that. And that could be a detriment to his career.
Of course.
Right? And not only in F1, what if he decides to pack it in and decides, okay, I want to go somewhere, so I want to go GT, whatever he decides to do, if he decides to do any form of racing after that. People are looking at these things and be like, yeah, you're Max, but the the environment around the atmosphere, we don't like it. We don't want to be dealing with that.
Which is why I think the
It's
whole
not a good look.
him to Mercedes thing was never going to happen. But we talk about that another time. So, Ted reported on what he saw in his notebook, and I'm like, that could have been done in private, away from the cameras, away from public view. You guys have a motorhome, you have offices. Go sit in the office and discuss what's going on. You know what I mean? But to do it openly in public, to me, just kind of screams entitlement.
It's just nasty work, bro. It's just nasty work.
And
it's not.
There was even reports that the technical director, what's his name, Pierre Wacher, I can't pronounce his surname, flew back to the UK same night for crisis meeting with the technical department because they want to know what's going on. You know what I mean? And now they're dealing with issues that the likes of Mercedes and Ferrari and McLaren had to deal with. And it feels like their world is falling apart. Everything around them is coming down. And not only that, they're losing key people within the team. They're Jonathan Wheatley, he's now Sauber's team principal. Newey has left. Other people, I'm sure other people have left the team, and they're facing what happened to Mercedes. When Mercedes was at the top of the tree, people came in and start picking off their fruits.
Yeah, which is normal. Which is normal.
So
it's normal business practices.
Yeah, but I think the loss of Adrian Newey might be more detrimental than we thought, because whilst it was reported that Adrian Newey wasn't really involved per se in the whole car design, etc., but the fact that he was in the building, his knowledge and expertise was still available to them.
Yeah, the DNA.
So if they have an idea for something and they felt, oh, you know what, they can always go to knock on his office door like, Adrian, okay, this is what we have planned, etc., etc., and he can like, okay, yeah, that might work, but what if you do this, etc., etc. You know what I mean? So they had him there for that. But with him departing now we're going to see, because Horner and H&M, and that's what I call them, H&M, Helmut and Marko, and
Horner.
Yeah, Horner and Marko, that's what I call them.
Yeah.
Said many times that basically they don't need Adrian Newey, which is a bold statement to make.
Yeah, that's bold.
I wouldn't even, if I was them, I wouldn't even think it aloud. If I think it, I'd put myself in the corner in timeout just to think that. How can you say you don't need Adrian Newey? You've not succeeded without Adrian Newey. So how can you say you don't need him? Every single piece of success you've had, he was there from the beginning in 2005 up until he left last year, this year, whichever way you want to call it. He's left. So how can you say you don't need him?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And no, saying that, you're gonna have to back that up. No, because there's no reports that Max has a clause in his contract, a performance clause, that apparently if he finishes outside the top 3 in the Drivers' Championship, he can leave. But where is he gonna go? There's only one place I think he's gonna go.
Say it.
Aston. I've been saying it. I called this 2 years ago. Was it 23? I think it was either 23 or 22. I called it that Max was going to leave Red Bull and go to Aston Martin. And people looked at me like, you're crazy. And I'm like, look, I think the future Aston Martin lineup will be Max Verstappen and Yuki Tsunoda. I called it like 2 years ago. Now, everywhere you look, you see people are saying the same thing now, Max to Aston. And it kind of like, and Alonso's words somewhat kind of signals that's what the play is, because he's been blowing smoke up Max's ass so the last couple of weeks. It's crazy. The way he talks about Max, you think Max was his, his dad or something like, or his love child. The glint in his eye, how proud he is of man. And I'm like, yo, what's going on? So is he kind of like buttering Max up? Because Max is going to take his seat. Whoever comes into Aston is taking Alonso's seat. And again, they have that connection at Aston that they're building. Adrian Newey is there. Honda is there. He's familiar with both of these people and groups. Why would he not go to Aston?
Makes sense, but I guess more to come on that.
Yeah, we hear the story will evolve as time goes by, because I think if we get to the summer break and there's no change in the performance of that Red Bull, because right now that Red Bull is not even quicker than the Mercedes. Let's be real. If it gets to that summer break and there's no change in that Red Bull, I think Max would be looking to explore that option of bouncing. And worse, and to make it even worse, there's even reports that the Red Bull power unit isn't that great.
Hold your thought, because we don't want to go too far on this topic, right? But I got to say this. One of the things that when you talk about greats, right? There's a lot of things that comes with being a great other than just winning. Because if you look at past greats, because if you look at someone like after Seb had his 4 chips with Red Bull, he went through the rut with them, and you never heard Seb act in a certain way. I'm gonna leave.
I mean, he only had one bad year with him, didn't he? 2014.
Yeah, but it was bad enough for him to scream coming off 4 championships, right? Still kept it professional, still kept it calm, still kept it to Seb. Lewis went through his lull with Mercedes, right? And it's just crazy to me when, as a driver, he's great. He's got championships, Max I'm talking about. But it just doesn't sit right with me when the moment your team that gave you all these things is in a bad situation, you're screaming from the top of the roof, the highest roof. That doesn't sit right with me. I don't. So you're going to go down as a great. I'm always going to say you're great for winning the championships, but I'm not going to put you in the categories based on this of certain great.
As team building, how are you good at galvanizing your team around you when you guys are facing adversity? And I think that's the true definition of a leader. When the chips are done, how do you rally your troops? How do you, keep them motivated so that these guys are willing to run through a brick wall for you?
Yeah, because as soon as even his championship winning years, as soon as he had a bad weekend or the car isn't pointing where he wants it to point, he would just throw a rant, and I'm like,
yeah, and it's the constant swearing and effing this, and you're like, yo, which is why people ask the question, like, how does this engineer deal with that? Because, and I think that's why George went after him last year.
And not only that, and let's keep it a buck. The conventional media is to blame for it too, because they uphold it, they call it passion. They make all kind of excuse. Martin Brundle is the leader for that.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just going to go out there and say it. Martin Brundle from Sky, he's the leader for when Max is acting up. Because the thing is with me, guys like Martin Brundle, they're in the space, they got a responsibility too, bro. Right? And when they put certain things out there and they speak as, he's passionate, this and that. No, the guy's mad disrespectful sometimes. The guy is obnoxious sometimes. You need to just call a spade, right? Yeah,
because did he not go after Lewis in Australia? I think he wrote an article, talked about all, Lewis spoke to his engineer, the angst and whatever.
Which was crazy to me. So he does nasty work too. So Mr. Martin Brundle. So, but anyway, we gonna move on from Max on that part. Yeah, but I said it. Martin Brundle does nasty work.
I hear you.
So, and usually I'm not. Me. I'm trying to keep, but a lot of times when I listen to this, I'm like, bro, you do nasty work. You call out certain you when it's one driver, you say and the next driver do the same thing. It's a total different. Come on, guy, come on. You do nasty work, man.
Which is why lately I think I started doing it last year. I don't watch the race build up. I switch my TV on 5 minutes before the race starts. Because that 5 minutes, they're already in the car and they're settling and everything. And they've moved away from the grid walk.
Even sometimes it's attitude on the grid walk and on the grid walk towards like certain and I'm like, do your job. Like at the end of the day, it's not for you to say who should be on the grid. Dude,
don't mince your words, man. He behaves differently towards certain black celebrities than he does any other race. Let's keep it a buck. Yeah, we know, we've seen it. He disrespected Venus and Serena at Silverstone. He went after Meg the Stallion. He's done it before. There's a different way he goes about it. So, but anyway, that's we touch on that maybe on another episode, but for now, I see him write stuff. There's an article that came out today that he wrote about Lewis and his excuses or whatever. And I'm like, you know what? I didn't even read it. I saw the headlines and I just thought, I'm not reading this because I know what this is gonna be about. So I'm just gonna ignore it.
Yeah, let's move on from it because we know they're bitter. He's bitter, I should say. So let's move on from that. So Yuki scored points. His first point.
Man, I got a hit tweet from that from it, bro. Because what did I tweet? I tweeted that let me see if I can find it.
Yuki scored
points in a car that Larson failed to. Larson failed to score points in a car that Yuki did. And I'm
that's like, wild.
and again, I then followed up and said, if you notice, for every good performance Yuki has in that car, it's a slap in the face to Christian and Helmut. Because it's proving again, you should have put him in that car from the start of the season.
Yeah.
What they did to Yuki, again, De Vries, Ricciardo, Lawson. They brought Ricciardo in to test him to see how he'd go against Yuki. And then from there, they decide if they put him in the Red Bull. Yuki sent him into retirement, washed him. Lawson came in, it's the same thing. He washed Lawson. But yet, you looked at Lawson and you thought, he's the better option. I'm like, what more do you want Yuki to do? And here's my thing with this, right? Yuki could go on and fail like everybody else who's been promoted into the second seat. That would be fine if you had given him a fair chance. If you get what I mean. So he's probably gonna stink up the place for the rest of the season. But no one's gonna like let Red Bull feel vindicated in the decision of not putting him. They can't come out and say, you see, that's why we didn't put him. We're gonna say no. Because if you'd given him the opportunity from the get-go, and then he goes on and messes up, then you can say, okay, see, this is why we didn't want it to promote him. Because we didn't feel like he'd be able to do the job. And again, he didn't have any tests. It's his second time driving the car. Qualified, took it to Q3.
He's basically testing on the weekends, on the race weekends. Because in
the first race, he qualified P15 and Lawson qualified him, and people were like trying to rave about it, but Lawson finished behind him. You know what I mean? Second week, qualified 10th. Finish in the points. For Yuki, that's a success. Okay, the gap to Max might still be somewhat relatively, but at the same time, he's learning as he goes. because he has never driven this car. Lawson went back to Racing Bull. And what the hell is he doing in a car that he drove last year?
Yeah.
So for Yuki, in this regard, I'm riding with Yuki for this one, because I felt like, and it's not just me, I think a lot of people feel like that.
They did him dirty. Red
They
Bull
did him dirty.
They did him dirty.
They could have let him have the say. He did everything you wanted of him. Well, not him. You sent everybody after him. Because if Ricciardo dusted him, then you can have, okay, this is why we didn't put him in. Because look at Ricciardo, we pretty much think he's past it. If Lawson had done him, then yeah. But none of these guys did. And you still overlook him?
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
Now he's turned up. I mean, not even, what's that? This is race 4, round 4. 3 rounds, and only one Red Bull driver scored points. Name the last time that ever happened to Red Bull. If that ever happened to him, then you'd probably have to go back to when they just took over Jaguar.
Yeah,
in 2005.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. So it's crazy. So I'm happy for Yuki.
Yeah,
he's on the board.
Yeah, because this is a decision this is why I find it funny that they made that decision when it came on to Yuki and Lawson, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've known him to swap drivers between the teams. So what made this time different? And they ended up doing it anyway.
Just shame.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, kudos, congrats to Yuki scoring his first point, bringing it into Q3. Mm-hmm. Right? Congrats to Yuki. Keep doing your thing. Right? Yeah, Hamilton. So we're gonna move on to the next point, which is Hamilton struggles in qualifying. Still continues to struggle in qualifying. Is this not it's becoming a hallmark thing for him?
No, I think it's too early to make that sort of
that should have been a question, actually. I just asked it wrong.
yeah, I get what you've said, because I think it's a similar thing Brundle wrote in that article I mentioned.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's too early to make that decision, because if you work out the number of hours he has driven that car, I think I did a rough maths. It works out to be probably 2 days, 48 hours. Because he did a day and a half so it's more than that. So he did a day and a half, not even a day and a half, a day and a quarter in testing. 3 hours practice, whatever. So work it out, say it works up. He's driven that car for like 3 days.
Yeah.
In total amount of hours. People don't understand how big the switch is. Because all he's ever known is Mercedes power units. Like I said in the space, Lewis can tell you every note of a Mercedes engine. Every note. He can, just by how it revs, he can tell you what gear it's in. He can probably tell you what strat mode it's in. He knows it like the back of his eyelids. So to move from there to Ferrari, it's not just a cultural change. It's also a technical change.
Yeah.
Right? He did an interview and he mentioned something about like the Ferrari engine uses engine braking. And he's like, yo, when I was at Mercedes, we didn't do that. So I'm like, what? The Mercedes didn't use engine braking? That's odd. Because you'd assume that all of these things use some form of engine braking.
Because that's a lot to put through this disc.
Yeah. So when I've thought about it, I'm thinking the difference here might be when they switch to different strat modes, it's in the software to what amount of engine braking is being used. Whereby Ferrari, you have to actually change a switch. And you have to do that. So that's a different dynamic so that's things he has to get on top of.
Hands-on.
Again, not only that, when he left McLaren right? Because when he was at McLaren, he used carbon industry brakes.
Yeah.
He went to Mercedes, they were using Brembo until they changed them to carbon industry. I think Rosberg kept using Brembo brakes, right? But he still used carbon. I think it's I think it's the brake disc and the brake
Caliber
pads were, and so on, were carbon industries, right? Ferrari uses Brembo. So all of these things now are different things. So Ferrari are going to have to make adjustments for him. When where did Alonso? I can't remember which team, but Alonso went to Alpine. They had to change his steering rack because the one he was using before to something that he used before that he was comfortable with. So you're gonna have to make these adjustments to the car. You can't just say to him, okay, this is the car, you have to drive it. This is what we use. No, you're gonna have to make it comfortable for him as well. So if he likes carbon industry brakes, you're gonna have to, because it gives him that feel. And again, braking is where one of Lewis's strong points, right? And if he has that in his arsenal, he's gonna be lethal. So if that's what he needs, you're gonna have to start giving him the tools that he needs.
So let me ask you this:
basic tools.
So
I think, yeah, go on.
You think Ferrari's gonna make that compromise?
Why not?
I'm just asking because
but again, you're paying him reportedly $100 million a year. You're gonna have to give him what he wants, because again, if you don't give him what he wants and he continues to struggle, then have you really tried to help him?
The reason why I ask it, I'm just asking it from a place of what's the contractual agreement between, say, Brembo and a Ferrari, right? Because sometimes those things are iron.
Yeah,
it's probably ironclad. Whereas like now, you can't be using no CI. We have an exclusive
that's true.
partnership with you where it's Brembo. So at this point, the reason why I ask that is that because if that's an ironclad thing, whereas Ferrari just cannot use CIs, so now it's going to become an adaptable situation, right? Where he's going to have to just figure it out.
Yeah, and I think it's unfair on him to expect him to be fully up to speed after 4 races. Carlos Sainz is having the same issues in Williams, but no one is looking at that because, again, he's away from the spotlight, so he can have those issues quietly. Lewis is the high-profile move, so he'll be looked at. But at the end of the day, it comes on also to the car. He's not comfortable in the car. He cannot trust the car. It's not predictable for him. And if it's not predictable, you're not going to get the best out of it because you don't know. It's one of the things he had an issue with the Mercedes. He kept saying the car behaved differently from corner to corner. He couldn't predict what he was going to do from one corner to the next. And that takes time. So Charles, it's not a problem for Charles because Charles has been here. Charles was part of the, provided feedback of where the car was weak and whatnot. And that's what they work with to produce what they produce now. So Lewis will need time. But is he performing that badly? Okay, this was his worst qualifying so far this year, 9th. Right?
Yeah.
And this was, I believe, the largest gap between him and Charles in any qualifying session this year. And again, that will improve the more comfortably he gets in the car.
All right, let's see.
Yeah, look, you don't forget how to drive. Has he lost a bit of pace? Naturally, because as you age, you're gonna lose some things. But he's still one of the quickest drivers on the grid. He recovered from 9th to 5th.
Yeah,
He was the biggest move. He was the biggest mover in the top 10.
Yeah, I don't think it's
his teammates started P2, but they finished 4th and 5th.
Yeah, I don't think it's a disaster, to be honest.
No, it's not.
So
but people want to say it's a disaster because, again, I think more people want to see him fail than to see him succeed. Genuinely, I believe more people want to see him fail than to succeed. Because I saw one of these, I can't remember his name, right for the Fun Analytica, those Italian guys. He put out a tweet after qualifying, talking about the experiment with Lewis Hamilton seems like it has failed, or something of the sort that, they probably should have stuck with Sainz. And I'm like, because he qualified ninth? That's what you coming with? Because he qualified ninth. But then he finished fifth, and there was not a peep out of him.
Yeah, it goes.
You know what I mean? Where did Sainz finish? I saw Autosport put out an article, put out a tweet. Sainz out-qualifies Lewis Hamilton in Williams. But where did they finish the race? There was 3 races prior to Bahrain where Lewis has out-qualified Sainz, but you didn't say anything. So the one time Sainz gets the upper hand, you're going to magnify it. And again, like Lewis said, people use his name to generate clicks.
Yeah, thing is, man, I don't know people even, I get it, they're in media and it's a nasty place, because I could never just sit down and just to get clicks, just speak untruth, or just have this agenda where I really know people could go Google and find that I'm whatever I'm writing is just trash. People could Google it. If people want to really get their own conclusion of whatever it is, they could go see and be like, well, just like what you said, well, he out-qualified him first 3 races. This is a non-story, if it makes, you see what I'm saying?
It was never a story, but again,
yeah, it is what it is.
When you put Lewis' name in certain things, it's going to generate traffic on your page, naturally. And again, the more traffic you generate, the more revenue you generate.
Yes,
the more eyes are going to see your stuff. So we know why they do it. That's why when I saw it, I was just like, I didn't even engage in it, because I just knew this is something nothing more than aimed at just, to rile people up.
I'm gonna close out this topic on just this. Let's see how many of them starve when he retires.
Look,
all right.
It's like, if you look at Mercedes right now, since Lewis has left, the Mercedes interaction has dropped massively.
The guy is blockbuster, so yeah.
And the same is going to happen to Formula One once he's gone, because I said at the quick stop thing, this is his last contract in Formula One. I don't want to see Lewis do an Alonso.
Yeah.
Don't run it 2026, 27, and then bow out, my G. Just let it go. Move on. I don't even. If Ferrari don't produce a good car in 26, I don't even want him to do 27.
Yeah.
Just bow out.
Well, and that's it. And Lewis. All right, then. George Russell, man. Got to give it to the guy. He's doing the business. Guy's doing the business.
I said, when George won Formula 2, I said to people, George is the real deal. George is the real deal. Right now, 2 best drivers on the grid right now, the top, not best drivers. But if you were to rank who's been, him and Oscar, straight up. Because George is quietly doing his thing, and people aren't even taking notice of what he's going on.
Hold on. Put context to that, because
if you rank,
this guy is crazy.
If you were to stop the season, if you were to stop the season right now and pick who has been the 2 best drivers so far this season.
Oh, this season, so far this season.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you stop the season right now, you said who has been the best drivers so far this season? The top 2 will be Oscar and George. Easy. Anybody who disagrees with that are doing so based on bias and dislike for George. Straight up. Because George is quietly getting on with the job. He's qualifying. His worst qualifying was in China. No, in Suzuka. And the only reason why he qualified that far down, where did he qualify? 4th? I think he qualified. Only reason he qualified that far down was because he made a mistake on his qualifying lap. And the reason why he made that mistake was he wanted to do his warm-up lap a certain way, and the team said no. But when he got to turn 1, he didn't have any temperatures in his tires, and that caused him to have a snap, and he had to carry that error throughout the whole entire lap, which saw him. I think he qualified 4th, I believe. I'd have to check. Right?
Yeah.
But outside of that, George has just been quietly getting on. Where did he qualify? Qualified 5th behind Charles. He's just been quietly getting on with his job. He has 3 podiums so far. He's what? Where is he? 3rd in the championship? He's 4th in the championship. He's only 6 points behind Max.
Yeah.
So George has been quietly just been getting on with the job, and he's showing people why Mercedes thought so highly of him. You know what I mean? And why he's going to get the contract that he deserves. And this is why I said when people were talking about the Max to Mercedes sort of thing, I was like, yo, Max is not going to Mercedes. Yeah, but Toto Wolff will drop George he's not going to drop George for Max.
Let me ask you a question. It's going to go back a little bit. Now that you mention that. When you look at Mercedes, right, as a brand, and just how they carry themselves, it makes sense. I cannot see Max with the people around him and the way they act, the way they carry themselves. I cannot see them fitting in a Mercedes environment.
Yeah, they don't fit the brand.
I don't think they would fit the Mercedes brand.
The brand culture doesn't fit with.
Yeah, I don't think
the Mercedes brand is too.
It fits Red Bull perfect.
Yeah, because Red Bull is pretty much a marketing team, marketing company, and they like that sort of controversial, whatever. Mercedes is, as a brand, it's too square. Lewis is the only person coming to that brand who isn't squared. If you get what I mean. Lewis was the cool thing with the Mercedes brand. If you get what I'm trying to say. Because when you look at Mercedes as a brand, it just looks... It doesn't appeal to, per se, the younger...
The hip crowd.
Generation. You know what I mean? It's one of those...
It's not a young hip brand.
Yeah, it's not one of them hip brand. It's a more reserved sort of...
Mercedes is like old money.
Well, it is old money. It's old.
The Mercedes brand is it's not. I get what you're trying to say.
Yeah. So that's again. So that's why the Max thing won't work. But but going back to George.
Yeah.
You have to tip your hat to George, because Sunday he did 24 laps on the soft tires after saying he didn't think it was possible, and there was no way Charles was ever going to pass him. Charles never looked like he could threaten him at all. He looked comfortable. Yeah. And he said 10 laps before the end of the race, he was having brake-by-wire issues, where his brake pedal was going straight to the floor. Some laps it did that, some lap it didn't do that. And he nursed those tires to the end of the race. Easy. He didn't look... And again, what he's not doing is he's not making mistakes.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I noticed. He kind of ironed out that part.
He's not making mistakes. And this is why, and again, he's proved, being Lewis's teammate, he learned a lot. And I think we're going to see what he has learned over those years as Lewis's teammate. And I think Lewis has learned a lot from him, because Lewis has learned, like, yo, I'm up against a younger generation who are ruthless, quick, they're merciless. And I think that will help him with how he deals with the situation with Charles right now. But George, on a whole, like I said on Sunday, you have to tip your cap to him and like, yo, do your thing. Do your thing. Because I felt, I'd said for years, I don't think we'd ever see another British F1 champion after Lewis leaves. And it's very likely Lando might shit the bed, don't win it, But if anybody's going to do it, it probably will be George. Because he's quick, he's aggressive, because that boy don't play. He's quick, he's aggressive, and he's calculated. So he has all the tools needed to win the championship. So if Mercedes, as per the rumors, are saying that the Mercedes 2026 power unit is an absolute beast, and they come out next year with a car, look, George will run the table. Believe that. Believe it.
All right. Yeah. Before I go over to the final two topics that we have, I gotta throw an honorary mention in for his teammate, young Kimmy. This is an honorary mention. He's not on the list, but the boy can race. His decision making, his decision making. Not only that, I'm just watching him from season start. His decision making is impeccable.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like this. Opportunity, take it.
Yep.
Right? And is it, because I got to put it into context, right? Is it because he's probably in a faster car coming up against a car that is probably a little bit slower, so he could get these? I don't know. Right? But from what I'm seeing, even if that's the case, from what I'm seeing, and with last year as well, I've seen enough sample size to say he's a good racer.
Youthful exuberance.
With the potential to be great.
Yeah.
Right?
I think we're starting to see why the whole entire Mercedes team rated him that highly, because Lewis even rates him that highly as well. And if Lewis rates you that highly, that means you must be special.
Yes.
And we're seeing that. And again, it's a bit youthful exuberance. He's going to make mistakes along the way, but I think he's in the right environment. You know, Mercedes as a team, they nurture talents. You know what I mean? He could have gone. I don't think Red Bull does that. They don't really nurture talents. They just, if you're not up to the task, they just cut you, sling your hook, and that's it. Kimmy's in the right place to progress.
Yeah.
And again, you're seeing why they thought so highly of him, because he's quick. He punked Max.
Yeah, so.
You see that pass he put on Max twice on that one lap. He had Max defending fresh air.
Well, you gotta
he
go
just
with,
punked him.
Well, you gotta go with Max.
Yeah, because that was the overtake. Did he not overtake Max?
Yeah.
He punked him going into turn one, forced Max to defend fresh air, which compromises entry into turn one. And Kimmy then had the perfect entry and exit coming out of 2, going up to 3, and just punked him again going into turn 4, where Max yet again defended fresh here when Kimmy was still well behind him, and he just drove around the outside of. No, he didn't drive around the outside of him. He just did the switchback and just drove by him. He literally just punked him. So you can see. So you're seeing it. 18 years old, dude. What were we doing at 18?
Yeah, he's got it.
Getting in trouble.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, that's our honorary mention. Young Kimmy Antonelli doing his thing.
And I think, hold on, let's throw in another one too. Shout out to Olly Berman.
Olly Berman
started dead last, finishing the points.
Yeah, he's doing his thing.
Good drive from him. So, you know, I think the rookie class this year.
Because remember both of them had this big old ding dong in Monaco, right?
Oh,
Berman and Antonelli.
Yeah, when they were teammates, because they were teammates at Prema.
So they're doing their thing. Yeah. Well, you got to put this, Alonso. Well, you have to put this on the list, bro. Alonso remains pointless.
Of course, 4 races.
Remains pointless and pointless, pun intended. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pointless and pointless. Because I believe this is his worst start. When did he come in Formula 1? I think it was 2002 was his first season in Formula 1.
I think.
Let me just check. He started his first 2001. He drove for Minardi. right? How many races did he do for Minardi? Yeah, he did the whole entire season. So this is practically his worst start to a Formula One career since his Minardi days. And he's driving a car that 2 years ago, right? He was on the podium in 7 of the first 8 races. And they've just gone downhill from ever since. But he's more, rather than worry about scoring points and whatnot, he's out here blowing smoke up Max's ass. Dude, Lance Stroll has more points than you. Lance Stroll is the only person that has scored points for Aston. Big Alonso. The guy is, look, I said Alonso should have been on F1 like 3 years ago.
And it's crazy. Martin Brundle isn't writing any piece on Alonso's decline. But
no. The thing is, he gets. Someone mentioned. I put out a tweet about it, and someone said, "What's just going to happen? He's going to have a one good race, and everybody's going to start rave about him again, forgetting that the last 4 races he pretty much stink up the place. He had 2 non-classified. The first time he got classified in a race was Japan.
That's bad.
So
he's having a bad season.
And again, what is Aston? What are they doing? Why are you going? I remember when they were moving over to these regs, I said, going to the new set of regulations with a younger driver lineup. Pardon. Build, because the team is building.
They could build with, yeah.
The team is building, so you build with some younger drivers. And at the time they had, I think it was Drogovic. Yeah, that was before he won his F2 championship. I was saying, yo, Drogovic is there. Go with him. And obviously the Nepo baby Lance Stroll. But they went into the new regs with this guy. Alonso is what, 43? 43. You can't go into another set of regulations with Alonso. To do what exactly? What's the purpose of that? Move on from him. You're investing all that money. What is it, 43? He was born, so July this year is going to be 44.
He was born 81.
No, yeah. So July this year, July 29th, he's going to be 44. Really? You're going to go into... Alonso is not going to win you a championship. The only way Alonso wins you a championship is unless Adrian Newey builds a car that's 5 seconds a lap faster than everybody else. And Lance Stroll is still his teammate. But Alonso is not going to win you a championship if the cars are evenly matched. Move on from Alonso.
Yep, I could agree with that. Let
him go, man.
All right, and so, yeah, we just barely made it hour and 8 minutes. Try to do an hour. We're going to push over by at least 10.
8, mine said 3.
Yeah, the recording on this actually started late. That's where I'm gonna have to pull the audio from. That's it really. It's about rating the race. Like, we're gonna do 3 steps. So would you put this race on the podium? Because everyone does 9 out of 10.
All right.
Would you put this race on the podium?
All right, so definitely, yeah. So
we're on the podium.
Australia first, China second, this third.
Okay, so
I ain't putting Suzuka nowhere near the
did
podium.
Not make the podium.
I'm treating Suzuka like Alonso. It's not classified.
Okay. Well, yeah.
No way.
That's it. That's the review done for Bahrain race review. It was a decent race. Yeah, I think it made the podium. But let's see. We don't have to wait long. Racing is this weekend again. And who you got for this one? Let's see. Who you got for this coming weekend? Give me a podium for this coming weekend.
I'm going with the same 3 that we had last weekend. I think the Mercedes is going to be there as well, because I think the Mercedes likes high-speed corners.
So Piastri,
Lando,
George. So I'm gonna go one step further. Give me an order.
I'm switching around the winner. I'm going Lando, Oscar, and George.
Who won the last?
Because
Who won the last Jeddah?
it's gonna be hard for the Mercedes.
Who won the last Jeddah?
Max won Jeddah.
Okay. So you
and
got
he pretty much won it comfortably, if I'm not mistaken. He won it by 13 seconds.
okay.
Pretty
So
comfortably.
so you put in. So it's gonna be you. So you said you're putting Lando, Piastri, Russell.
Yeah, that's gonna be my top three.
I'm gonna put Piastri first again.
Yeah, because you just don't like Lando.
No, don't say that. I do not dislike Lando Norris. I'm just all my things, all my opinions are just based on the things that I'm seeing. It's nothing personal, right? Mm-hmm. It's never personal, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, when I look at racing and sports, motorsports, because as you know, I'm a motorsports person. I watch like football. Yeah, I'm an Arsenal fan, all that stuff, right?
Netflix team.
You know, however, motorsports is my thing, right? That's the thing that I wake up early. I'm in the States, so that's the thing that I wake up early. That's the thing that I go to bed late, right? That's the thing that, you know, I'm at work. It's on my phone if the race is throughout the day, right? So when I look at what these guys go through, right? And all F1, MotoGP, Superbike, it's all life-risking stuff. So it's never personal for me. I respect all these guys, right? No matter their attitude, I respect all of them for what they do because think about it. They're risking their lives every single time they go in that car. You know what I'm saying? So I can never understand how people really get really have a disdain or a dislike for it. I'm like, it's never that serious for me. I just love motorsports, and because ultimately all these people got to go home to loved ones, right? It's just racing, and we may not like what one person says when the microphone is in front of them. We may not like, but yeah, it's never that serious for me. So I do not dislike Lando Norris. He just shows me, he's just showing me why I should not trust him.
Well,
that's what it comes down to.
I'm different to you. I dislike drivers. I'll never wish harm to come to any of them. No way, no shape or form I'll ever do that. But I dislike drivers. You know my dislike for Alonso and where that stems from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't blame a black man for the reason why he's subjected to racism from your own fans and your own countrymen.
Yeah, that was
foul. You do that, I'll never like you. So that's where my disdain for Alonso comes from. You know, plus other things. I don't like Max as a driver. I respect him as a driver. As a person, I don't like him because, you know, you just, as we say in Jamaica, you know, my spirit not take him. There it goes.
Cool. All right. We gonna wrap on that. Yeah, it's all sports. It's just all fun, right? So yeah. This weekend coming up, we're gonna have High Speed Jeddah.
Oh, that track! I love that track. I'm disappointed they're actually gonna move it to a purpose-built circuit. I think it's next year or 2027.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, and so you're our picks for the upcoming Jeddah race. So yeah, let's see. Out because obviously you do the spaces after the race, so we're gonna have this conversation in the spaces, and then we kind of. Because the difference with the space is, as everyone, we just go at it like everyone, we just talk. But when it comes onto the podcast, it's more thought out, right? So,
and I like the space because the space is a bit more personal. We have more people we can interact with right there live, you know, and you have a live audience as well at the same time.
Yeah, at some point we're going to do this live because technically I could do this live if I wanted to, but just a matter of time. We just kind of need to get more listeners and more interactions, and then. Yeah, but yeah, that's it for another episode of the Grand Prix Project. This is the F1 edition. So yeah, we'll catch you next week after Jeddah.
Take it easy. We out.
Thank you for listening to the Grand Prix Project podcast.